Okay, so by way of reminder, we are going to be spending our Sundays between Easter and July 4th weekend talking about two of the most important words in the Bible. These words knit the Bible together as one whole. And as it happens, we will also be offering at 11 o'clock on Sundays a class that corresponds to these two words. Right now, the corresponding class is the one on empathy that is offered in room 3. We encourage you to participate. So 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that you just read with Pastor Mary is often called colloquially the love chapter of the Bible. Well, the love letter of the Bible is 1 John. Love is used more in 1 John on a per word or per chapter basis than anywhere else in the New Testament, with Ephesians coming in a close second. So we are going to head back to 1 John, not just today, but for the bulk of this series. Let's remember where we started last week, because it is the only appropriate starting place for any conversation like this about Christian love. We start by proclaiming courageously and authentically that whatever else God is love. And from that, we develop in detail what it is for us then to love as Christian people. Today, we're going to go back to the same passage that we talked about last week, this very large paragraph in 1 John chapter 4. And let me read for you the verses that are going to occupy our time this morning. First, 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, and then verse 12. Beloved, let us love one another, because love is from God. Everyone who loves is born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, God abides or remains or makes a home in us. And God's love is perfected in us. And this is how that very large paragraph in 1 John 4 ends, verses 19 and 21. We love because God first loved us. Those who say, I love God, and hate a brother or sister are liars. For those who do not love a brother or sister whom they have seen cannot love God whom they have not seen. The commandment we have heard from God is this: those who love God must love their brothers and sisters also. So how do those verses land with you? I think if you're hearing them in the way that they are meant to be heard, this is at least part of your reaction. There's a New Testament scholar by the name of Thomas Andrew Bennett who said these verses need to come with a caution, handle with care warning label, because they are meant to get our attention. The black and white opposites, the stark language, yeah, did it get your attention? That's exactly what it's trying to do. But he goes on to add, that's only half of it. You also have to remember that no less than twice in this paragraph, the author calls the readers beloved. And over again refers to them as family, brothers and sisters. So it would be inappropriate for us to read this passage any other way than loving advice from someone who cares deeply about us, but wants to get our attention about something that we may choose to miss or forego all too commonly. So let's start our conversation about those verses here. Where does love come from? How do you think your friends or our culture might answer that? Does love come from you getting adequate sleep and managing your own stress or anxiety really well? Well, that certainly doesn't hurt. But is that the extent of it? Does love come from you being in a good mood? Does it come from you feeling positively about the person with whom you're interacting? Also, not bad things, but is that the extent of it? Does love come from your willpower? Like you're gutting out that last rep at the gym. Is that what love comes from? Or candidly, does love come from the person with whom you're interacting being lovable, likable, agreeable? And therefore we choose very carefully who it is we love and who it is we don't. We'll see for the Christian from 1 John chapter 4, we say love comes from a very specific place, the deepest possible place. Love comes from our connection to God. In that connection, God's love and kindness and compassion for us flow into us, and then it flows out of us to the other people in our lives, our coworkers, our family, our friends, our fellow congregants, strangers at the grocery store. God's love flows in, and then it flows through us to other people. If you will, love in our life is the outflow of God's love into us. Therefore, our ability to love is at least in some way, maybe even an extraordinarily significant way, dependent upon our relationship and connection with God Almighty. St. Augustine of Hippo, one of the great church leaders and theologians from the 400 CE, a North African bishop, said it this way: "He who is filled with love is filled with God himself. We must first love God, and from that love, the love of our neighbor is born." End quote. There's a famous theologian from the last 70 years named Paul Tillich. And he, in his writings on the Christian spiritual life, warned of what he called horizontalism. Horizontalism is when you try really, really hard to be a really loving person to all the people around you, but you do it in a way that neglects your vertical connection to the God who loves you. You are so focused on offering horizontal love that you somehow have cut off the connection to the love that should be filling you and then moving through you. Tillich says, you know that you are falling prey to the danger of horizontalism when in your efforts to be a loving person, you grow resentful, when perhaps your love is not returned in the way that you hoped. Or you grow exhausted in your efforts to be kind and compassionate and merciful and understanding. That's because the well is running dry, because God's love is not flowing into you. be wary of the danger of horizontalism, Tillich says. So, if you and I want to do more than merely talk about Christian love, and we want to do Christian love, we need to help each other prioritize connecting with God. Here's one of the best things you can do for your spouse. Give them the chance, the opportunity, the priority to connect with God in the way that works for them. And if that means they need to be gone for a full day of quiet and nature and interaction with their friends, don't complain about it, because you will be the beneficiary of it. What about your kids? How can you help your kids be more loving? It's not by sitting them down on the bed, giving them a little more fatherly wisdom. Because the older they get, the less that takes. How about you help your kids at 6 or 9 or 17 or 21 or 24 or 35. Figure out how it is that they feel connected to God in nature, in quiet, in time with friends, through continuing spiritual education, doesn't matter. Help them figure out how it is they connect with God and give them the time to do it. Because what you know from 1 John 4 is that when they are connected with God, God's love is flowing into them, and then it will be able to flow out of them. How about in your life what you ask your friends and your family and your fellow congregants for is the opportunity to connect with God in the way that you need to, so that then you can be more loving. Wow, what if that was the gift that we all chose to give one another? Let me help you connect with God in the way that works for you. Is it your 7-year-old drawing on the floor, making a picture of what he learned in Sunday school? Awesome. Give your 8-year-old the space to do that. Is it your 19-year-old going to a different church than you because it fits their needs and their taste better? Awesome. Let them do it and don't complain. Share Easter with them. One Sunday they can come here, one Sunday you go there. What if we helped each other prioritize this connection with God that allows love to flow into us and then out of us? So, if we're catching the vibe here of 1 John 4, 7 to 21, we should be able to answer the question, what is the best barometer or measuring stick of my relationship with God? Okay, well, here are some things it's not that tend to be paraded around in certain versions of American Christianity today. It is not how much you know about the Bible. It is not how much time you spend in Bible study. It is not how much more you serve your church or the community more than other people. It is not how long you pray, how often you pray, or how better you pray from other people. It is not how right you think you are about doctrine. It is not how convicted you are, how sure you are about whatever the latest hot potato social issue is. None of that is a good biblical barometer for spiritual health and well-being. You know what the answer is. The answer is love. I can measure my spiritual health based on how well I am loving the people in my life my church, the people that God brings in and out of my life, my neighbors. David Benner is one of the great writers on Christian spirituality today. He is a Protestant psychologist. His will be one of the books I recommend to you at the end of this series. He writes very simply, love is the acid test of Christian spirituality. If Christian conversion is authentic, we are in the process of becoming more loving. If we are not becoming more loving, something is seriously wrong. End quote. So let's continue and perhaps wrestle with what are the most challenging aspects of the verses that I read for you. So when I am not loving, or where I am not loving, or when I struggle to be loving, what does that say about me? Here's how 1 John 4 would answer that. 1 John 4, verse 8, whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. Ouch. So the places in my life where I choose to not be loving, where I choose to forego love as the starting place, these are the places in my life where I don't really know God yet. I have to say, in preparing this sermon, I wondered to myself, as someone who has been a Christian most of his life and yet has not prioritized love as the centerpiece of it, it struck me with a shudder this week how much of my Christian life I have not really known God. Or to say it differently, the God I thought I knew was a false God and not the real one. Does that land with you too? Oh, it gets more striking. Here's verse 20 of 1 John chapter 4. Those who say, I love God, and hate a brother or sister are liars. Oof. Liars to whom? Liars to themselves. Liars that they are not who they say they are or think they are. Liars insofar as they are hollow beneath their smugness and self-assuredness. Liars to God, which never works because God knows the truth. So in the end, lying to God is actually only lying to yourself. Liars to whom? Okay, public personal confession time. I love inconsistently, which makes me just like you. So I'm confessing for all of us. There are people in my life I love well, and there are people in my life I do not love well. No, I'm not telling you who. There are kinds of people or categories of people in my life that I am naturally inclined to love. And there are categories and kinds of people in my life I am very much not inclined to love. Where my love is insufficient or inconsistent is revealing. It tells me where I don't really know the true God yet. And it also tells me where I'm lying to myself. Who is it you don't love? Who is it in your life you have made excuses not to love the way you love other people in your life? Great. That's the place where you need to learn a little bit more about God. You need to figure out who the real God is and not the idol you've made. And it's a place in your life you need to get honest and stop telling lies to yourself. Yeah, I love inconsistently, and so do you, and it can be ever so instructive. about how I and you can grow next. I'm a pastor, which means I tend to get a certain set of questions with regularity from people. One of them is, what the heck is God up to in my life? As if I know. But in a most poignant, fundamental way, this beautiful text in 1 John 4 answers that question for us. This is verse 12 of 1 John 4. No one has ever seen God. If we love one another, then God remains in us, and God's love is perfected in us. Did you catch it? Okay. Here's a New Testament scholar writing about this text named David Rensberger. Let his words show you what you should take away from that verse and what God is up to in your life. He writes, in Christian love, divine love reaches its goal. When we love one another, God's love accomplishes what it set out to do. It is not finished without our love. You could say that the ultimate aim of all creation and redemption is our love. The world looks at a genuine example of Christian love that says, that's it, that's what I'm looking for, that's God. And then God looks at the same example of genuine Christian love and says, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. That's what I've had in mind all along. End quote. What is God up to in your life? Well, there are many ways we cannot answer that question, but here is one firm way that we can. God is in the business of making you more loving. The point of your spiritual journey is to become and embody more Christ-like love the older you get and the longer you travel with Jesus. What is God up to in your life? No matter how much pain you face or how much blessing you are currently experiencing, the point is to become more loving. That's what God is up to for every single one of us. And until you and I are committed to becoming loving people in every form, venue, and fashion in our life, 1 John 4:12 would say God's love is not yet complete. This is the journey we are all on together. It is a journey of becoming love and being filled by the God who loves us. I tried to take everything that we've talked about today from 1 John chapter 4, verses 7 to 21, and encapsulate it in a poem. The poem is entitled, The Overflow. The spring is deep, an eternal holy well, before the first creative word was spoken. For God is love, no human tongue can tell how first God loved, unbound, unbowed, unbroken. From God, the living water starts its course, a tide undeterred and undaunted from its source. We are but vessels, not full, but empty space, designed to catch the torrent from above. An inherent thirst, always the waiting vase, our hearts only filled with a borrowed love. That which has been conveyed, we now bestow, for our every word and deed are divine overflow. For only when we love the ones we see is God's perfect love made fully known. On our own, there is only scarcity, a desert in which kindness cannot be grown. So keep wide the channel that we may receive. Then through our giving, the world might believe in the overflow. In the overflow. Let's take a minute here at the end of the sermon. I want to give you some space to respond to God in prayer. We'll be quiet for a moment or two. There are 3 questions up on the screen that you can use as a prayer prompt, but just respond to how God's Spirit was stirring in you this morning, and then after a moment or two, I will pray for us all.